think there's a general acceptance that the position the wreck fishers and wreck fishing in New Zealand is in is not in a desirable state for moving forward to deal with the challenges that are in front of not only New Zealanders but all over the world of diminishing fish stocks. We're becoming more and more aware of the role that we have as humans on our natural environment, and recreational fishers have a part to play in that. And the position we are in the middle of here in New Zealand is we don't have a pathway for being able to step up and be part of solutions. And we're not able to influence decisions so that in the immediate term it's better for us as recreational fishers, and in the long term it's good for our children, certainly my kids are keen fishers, their children and so on, and for the fish. And it says you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you need to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And what's been happening in wreck fishing for years is fighting the existing reality. Culture of reaction, complaint and protest. And I think it's not actually natural to our human state to be in that state. So it needs to be turned to a more positive, forward-looking approach. And I think that's also something we have to remember when we're taking these ideas to the fishing public of New Zealand is fishers are a smart lot of people. Fishers make decisions all the time. You're not talking about people who go down to the mall for their preferred form of leisure. You know, when you go fishing, you have to organise your gear, you have to get your mates in, you have to get your boat, you've had to do a whole lot of pre-thinking. And you know about responsibility, you know about investing in the right gear for safety. You've taken the time to research the stocks, the weather. I mean, we're dealing with actually a really intelligent group of people. So if you capture the hearts and the minds in the right way, this will turn, and New Zealand is in a position to be one of the world leading places for recreational fishing of stewardship. It's incredibly exciting. But as we've demonstrated over the last 32 years, we haven't done it yet, so we need a tool that is to help. And what I'm about to present is not the solution. So the solution is inside a collective of future-focused fishers. And such a group needs some practical assistance to combine their ideas. This is a suggestion that there is a methodology out there that can help kick-start this process to get some common ground for what it is that the fishing public actually want out of recreational fishing, and after that, then take it round to New Zealand. So what is a future search? Well, very briefly, future search is a planning meeting. It helps people transform their capability for action really fast, because it's quick. You bring together 60 to 80 people who meet for 3 days, and through dialogue they discover common ground, and then they make action plans. This is not a new thing. It's a meeting design that's it's based on theories and principles from around the world. This is just a few examples of some of the ones around the world. You've got pictures there, you probably can't see in the light, from Germany, Sudan, Indonesia, Brazil, USA and Ireland. So what could a future search bring to an environmental issue like wreck fishing? It can move deadlocked issues forward by engaging all involved parties. It engages all voices. This next one I just love, because it should be, say, wreck fishing. It supports engagements in communities where polarisation has seemed to stifle all hope, or in situations where capacity and resources seemed at an all-time low. It's a pretty good description of recreational advocacy at the moment. It brings large groups of people together in a successful dialogue, and it lays groundworks, helps you build coalitions, and you get really solid working relationships out of it. So what makes one work? Well, you've got to meet these conditions of this. You have to have the whole system in the room. That's crucial. You have to have a global context and a local action, and I think this conference has been a little mini example of how that works. Yesterday was probably the most positive recreational fishing conference I've certainly been part of. And I think the reason for that positive is we've opened eyes to a bigger context. You know, we had Martin Salter, we had Len Olliott, we had a bigger picture, rather than doing as much as we did today of, what's the problem right in front. Focusing on common ground and future focus, not continually going on the problems, not continually saying, no, we can't have licenses, rather than what do we want to achieve. Self-managed small groups, everyone's got to be there for the whole time. Nice meeting conditions, a nice place like this, for example. And then everyone takes on the responsibility for follow-up. You would consider a future search for wreck fishing in New Zealand if you desire a shared vision. Yes. You need an action plan. Other efforts have stalled. 2000 soundings. 2007 shared fisheries. Stalled. Other efforts have stalled. This effort is different because it's coming from the fishers themselves. Key transition is at hand. We've got two things operating right now that make this the time to move. One is the election and the other is the merger of MFish with MAF. That is the time to stand up and say, wreck fishers are ready to self-organise and self-manage. Support us to do it for ourselves. And opposing parties need to meet and have no good forum. And time is growing short. So what would the whole system be for wreck fish? You'd need to have people in the room from fisheries media, you'd need to have some of the existing national organisations, you'd need to have some tackle trade, marine industry, some of the local authorities, you need scientists. I've got a picture there of some commercial because you know that obviously impacts. Māori of course are down there, simply because Māori have a huge part and role to do with fishing. But this focus is on individual recreational fishing, of which Māori take part. It is not a treaty issue, it is about the individual, the Article 3. So that discussion about who should be there would happen in the planning of it, but it's crucial that you have the whole system in the room. You have to have the Ministry of Fisheries there, because they are part of the system. The suggestion for doing this is to use the experts. You know, if you want it, a future search has never been run in New Zealand, even though they've been running all around the world for over 50 years. So I've been talking to the two developers here, Sandra and Marvin. They are the definitive developers. They wrote this and many other books, as such. And Sandra has indicated she has a willingness to come here to run a future search for wreck fishing in New Zealand. And I mean, it's like getting the guru to do it, you know, getting the best. So who would be likely to sponsor this? Well, I think you'd need a combination of sponsors. There's a fund, which I've got a couple of slides on, from the Ministry of the Environment. I think MFish, Vote Fish, should be stepping up for this. After all, the government has got on their 2030 policy a very specific action that the government has said it's going to do, which is to support amateur fishers to organise and undertake collective management action. And I think a clean, clear change process that has a start and a stop is a pretty safe place for the government to be putting money into. And then stakeholders to commit some funds, but it would be a lot less than the other two. So timing. I think the decision to pursue a future search and obtain funding is now. Then, if the decision was saying, yep, this is the methodology we want to use, submit the application to the Ministry of the Environment Fund, the CEF Fund, by the 5th of September, so it gives a bit of time to do that. Get the political support, all the commitments that were made from those parties yesterday, step them up and get them to sign some money to it. And so that they collectively, cross-party, say, yes, Vote Fish will put X amount to this change process. And then it's all ticked off, you've got the money. December you start the planning process, so you hit right into peak time of fishing in New Zealand. Peak time, because for this process to work you have to get engagement. And again, this is just an idea, would have to work with a planning committee. I would imagine something, run a decent promotional campaign for these 97% of fishers, make it engaging, because you know, we talk about they're not engaged, but that's because you've got no pathway to engage them with. You say, yeah, you care about fishing, you're into stewardship, and they're saying, yeah, well what do I do with that care? With a process like this, they could show and they could vote in someone from their area that they think represents their fishing to be on the future search for them. You know, something that's very practical. And then run the search in June, and with that the search will come up with action plan, tasks to do, and one of them could be the statutory body, but you can't preconceive that. I think running through this is just going to cut through the endless discussions that will happen if we do this slowly, bit by bit, promotional. It's just a way to speed up the common ground and get everyone to use their brains, engage them in a well-facilitated process.